everyone, John here, your host on the Prepared Mind channel. Welcome back. I've had a bit of a rough week and got a surprise today. A friend from Texas stopped by. I always get a big Semper Fi from him. It seems like this year is gonna be it's gonna be like the farewell summer. I've got a friend Dirk in Oregon, John in Fremont. Quite a few people are going to stop by and see me at the old homestead. It seems like everyone instinctively knows the odds of shit hitting the fan are pretty enormous. Just a few hours ago, volcano blew in Hawaii, right? You know, is that just poetic, foreboding, or is it significant? One friend seems to think, his opinion is that, well, they're doing a bunch of stuff with HAARP, and they're creating problems, seismic anomaly problems, from volcanoes to tectonic shifts to just plain old earthquakes where they ought not be. We've seen a lot of that stuff for a long time. It's hard to really build a comprehensive shit-it's-the-fan plan and platform of understanding based on science that we're not really allowed to see. Still, we're aware that the technology exists, and we understand that the potential of HAARP is that it really can, right, fuck things up and cause shit to hit the fan. Anyways, thank you very much, Mike. Semper Fi to you as well. And you know, today was just a rough day. It's been a rough week in a lot of ways for me and for a lot of people. And what I wanted to talk about, because of what has been going on, right? This constant barrage, this bombardment of politics here all over the United States. And one could argue that California is among the worst, right? And I like to play down California and say, well, yeah, we're pretty fucked up. But you guys in second and third place aren't far behind. Anyways, the politics, the international, diplomacy, dealing with international intrigue, nuclear talks, war potential. I've done my best to keep up on top of all of that. I've done my best to keep up on all of the social dynamics, whether we're talking about the gay and anti-straight agenda, whether we're talking about the racial division, pitting blacks against whites, whites against blacks, everyone against everyone. When white people can't even mention race without being called a racist. When blacks can't even see, literally, a police action happening without going, what the fuck, yet again? You're beaten for being black and just walking down the street. We're seeing so much stuff, and it's attacking us from every angle. This morning, I was walking through my place of work, and I saw on one of the televisions an article about these gentlemen, or guys, or whatever you want to call them, human fucking beings. They've made several comments to people. This is the complaint about what's going on socially. One of them was, he made a comment about a woman wearing a face scarf. And he said, they questioned him, and he said, I don't like the fact that people in your religion want to kill me. So you go from social to religious. There's this racial division and pitting. There's this religious pitting. People divide and conquer. People against people. Nation against nation. In the economic situation, I correspond with a friend every day about the economics. I consider him to be very intelligent and insightful. He gives me a lot of information. And that would be my friend Chris. He says, I just don't get it. It is basically, I'm paraphrasing, things are incomprehensible. It doesn't make any sense. What's going on? The model we used to have got changed into another, and now it's just up in the air. You can't figure it out. Essentially, what I broke this down to, for the purposes of shit it's the fan discussion, is that we are in the pot of hot water, you and I. We no longer are the analogous frog, the metaphorical frog. We are the literal frogs. And we're being cooked. Literally, the water is getting so hot that it's cooking us. It's cooking our brains. Right? Our psyches are under attack religiously, politically, spiritually, economically, financially, in every regard. We're being attacked on every side. We're spiraling down here in the United States and probably around the world, much like Argentina, much like Venezuela, much like Italy is winding down, Greece, France, even countries like Germany, Great Britain are seeing incredible problems that are developing underneath. Russia and China are no different because we're all interconnected now. You could say the people are in a worldwide pot, and the heat is being turned up on us. The difficult part to understand is what we can do about it. Like they say, one of the things you do in order to deal with a problem is to recognize you have a problem. When you recognize you have a problem, you can do something about it. As preppers, you and I recognize there's a lot of different problems. And I focus on as many of them as I can to try and keep abreast of them all. But maybe you are just focused on the military action. Or maybe you're just focused on the political. Or maybe you think it's the social stuff that's the worst. And maybe you think it's the financial. But do your best to understand it all. And by being aware of the problem, like somebody who's in therapy, you're in the best position to understand it, to react properly, and to be prepared. There's days when it just beats you down. Interestingly, I had a friend, like I said, stop by, and we had a few drinks and bullshitted a bit and caught up. But when you get a step back from life, you can look around and see what's going on. The rest of the world, though, is in a completely different spot than you and I as preppers. I see you, buddy. We're in a different place. We have the ability to see. Now, even though I consider myself pretty astute, pretty aware, especially since I have so many good people sending me information all the time. I get so much now I can't even respond to them all except to say thank you when I can. Right? There's just so much information coming at me. But we have this information. Imagine, if you will, I would like you to take yourself and put yourself in the position of one of these walkers, one of these people that isn't awake, one of these people that's ignorant of the reality that we're facing, one of these people that has not a fucking clue that anything is wrong. Imagine how their world is going to be. Right? We just had this volcano blow up in Hawaii. All of a sudden, people have realized there's a problem. Now, the reason this is such a beautiful analogy, and we're looking at how nature works, but it's also a beautiful analogy, is everyone in Hawaii lives in paradise. Just like everyone in the rest of the world thinks they're in paradise. They're oblivious to everything else, in other words. But the people of Hawaii, they know they live on top of a series of volcanoes. Just like the rest of the world knows they live in a precarious place, surrounded by danger. And as of late, or we could just go back a couple of decades, several decades, Hawaii, the volcano there exploded, right? Lots of lava, lots of action. Like the rest of the world, it hasn't been so long since shit was really disturbed so bad that they could say shit has hit the fan. In certain parts of the world, it was just a couple of decades ago, like Vietnam or Korea. Over in Europe, it was a few more decades, World War II and then World War I. There's other areas that have been economically destroyed in the last few decades. So it hasn't been so long, but everyone seems to forget. And then over the last few months in Hawaii, there's been more seismic activity. There's been more evidence of magma flow. There's been more heat, more noxious gases. And then very recently, lava's been spewing. There's fissures opening up. Lava's coming out. And then today there was finally the explosion. This is analogous to what's going on in the world around us. You know, but this volcano goes off. Pow! Everyone gets excited, and at that point, they want to start doing something about it. It's not until the last second that they want to evacuate, that they're looking for help, that they're reaching out, that they're trying to understand what's happened to their world, their paradise. Let's move away from Hawaii now and come back here to the United States, or Canada, or Australia, depends on where you live, and think about it. We know shit hits the fan happens, just as they know volcanoes explode. They know that we're sitting on this cauldron of potential negative energy, just like the people of Hawaii do. But the people of the world in the US and Australia and Canada and Europe, everywhere, they're enjoying themselves so much, right? It's all bread and circus. I'm worried about my 401k. Who cares about everything else? It's a beautiful place. They're living their Dances with the Stars dream. They're living their epic romance. Whatever it is people are doing, they're very much distracted. Just like the people in Hawaii. But the signs and symptoms started coming. The fissures opening up, the noxious gases, the steam, the lava flows starting. The rest of the world knows what's going on, just like you and I do. If they want to learn, it's right there on the news. They can listen to their neighbors. They could listen to the radio, get on the phone, talk to a friend, all kinds of things. Just like the people of Hawaii have seen this volcano coming to life. It's been a long time since it's happened, but they know it's happened in the past. But they're living in paradise. All of a sudden it starts to get closer and closer. Symptoms get stronger and stronger, and finally it fucking explodes. And there is chaos and fear and people running for their fucking lives in a very real sense. And I do hope that everyone in Hawaii makes it to safety and that loss of life is kept at an absolute minimum. And we can hope for the best that that section of the island isn't absolutely smothered, right, in a mega explosion. Let's look at what we're talking about here with shit hits the fan. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. We all know it. As preppers, we're aware. Right? The rest of the world, they could have the information if they wanted it. Whether you're in Italy or France, whether you're in Russia or China, whether you're in Canada, Australia, the US, or Britain, it doesn't fucking matter. The symptoms are all there. The signs are all there. Everybody on the planet, if they really want to pay attention, can see the epic threat that we're all living right on top of, just like the Hawaiians. Right? Shit is going to hit the fan, and it's coming. The hard part is you and I have been aware of it the whole time. Right? The whole time. Right? And it's beating us down. It's wearing us out. It hurts to see this happening. We know what's coming. But we're also what? We're conditioned to it. Right? We're conditioned to it. I think that's a really good word to use. Just like the frog dealing with the hot water. Right? We've been incrementally exposed to it. So we're becoming conditioned to these adverse, right, living requirements. I think they're doing that on purpose. That is the powers that be. Because they're trying to let everyone down as slow. They don't want to lose control, and it's important to understand that. They want to maintain control of us, control of their system. At the same time, they're slowly, right, having to let the heat come on. There's an enormous financial explosion coming. The potential for World War III, the pressure for that is building. Socially, and even religiously, there is this cauldron of heat searing heat and pressure that's building. And I hate to see it happening, but people are going to go after each other. They're going to blame each other. So even though you and I are aware of it, we're also subject to the pain and suffering. We know that the water's getting hot, but there's really nowhere to go. You can't jump out of the pot. Where the fuck am I going to go? Where are you going to go? There's not a whole lot of options. So we're stuck in the pot, dealing with the hot water as the pressure comes up, and everyone else is starting to basically freak out. We're seeing micro snippets of it. We're seeing the social problems. We're seeing the religious problems. We're seeing a lot of political stuff. And we're seeing the financial issues. It's painful to see it all because I see it coming. It's taken longer to get here from us because really, I'm a Band-Aid, tear it off kind of guy. I would have rather seen this just get fucking torn right apart in 2009, 2010. Just get it done. Tear the Band-Aid off and start dealing with the problems. Instead, they've kept the Band-Aid on and they pumped antibiotics called quantitative easing into the problem. Right? And they've played this game where they continue to control us and try and maintain control of the world. Keep this pressure on. But as time progresses, more debt is expended. As people become, how do we put this? More dedicated to the proposition of their political, social, and religious persuasion. That it's locked in, building pressure. When it finally does blow, right, the pot is going to boil over fast. So I think in a lot of ways this is a pep talk. You're a prepper. You should have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, a plan. You don't want to be taken by surprise, caught off guard. None of that shit. But one of the things that's critical is that you've had to suffer through all this over an extended period of time because they've taken so fucking long to get this far. And I thought for sure years ago it would have gone. I would have welcomed it 9, 10 years ago because I was a lot younger. Not welcome it with a gleeful heart, but one that has a lot more physical energy. That's for sure. Anyways, we've been exposed to this. So it's worn us down. Don't lose heart is what I'm saying. This is a pep talk. Do not lose heart at how long this has taken. How tiresome it is. How difficult. How the mental anguish of seeing all these things play out. Across the entire spectrum, everything that's gone wrong and continues to go wrong and is pushing towards shit hitting the fan. Take heart in it. Because you're better prepared than everyone else. You've had to pay a price for that. Financially, personal time, socially, people that go, you're a stupid prepper. Really? That's you? You're one of those guys? All of those things. It wears you down. Plus, the draining, depression-like symptoms you may get because you're exasperated looking at the world. What is going on? And there's nothing I can do about it. I've seen this coming for 2 years or 4 years or 10 years, whatever your experience has been. And I can't believe this is happening. Why can't anyone else see it? Why doesn't someone fix it? It can wear you down. It can hurt your heart, hurt your soul. Don't let that get you down. This is unfortunately the price we all have to pay for understanding the situation we're in. The upshot, the good side, is that when that volcano finally fucking blows, the good side is not that you run up and knock on every house in your neighborhood and say, I told you so, motherfuckers. That's not the point. It's not to gloat and say, I'm prepared and you're not. You're going to fucking die and I'm going to make it. It's the fact, the gratification, the understanding, the faith you have in yourself will be renewed because you saw it coming and you got prepared and you did the training and the thinking necessary to get you to where you're at today. It's going to put you in a position, though you're beat down and you're tired, it's going to put you in a position where you can help others, where you're going to lead your group. And I know I've talked about leadership a little bit lately. It's going to be critical. Decision-making, thinking, understanding, planning. I want to draw another analogy here. And it can work as either a Marine or as a professional. You know, you go through the training, you go through the building, you go through the team building, you go through the educational and experience side. And it finally gets to the point where everything comes together and meshes together. It's happened at every phase of my life. I've seen how good leaders and teachers bring all the information and all the pieces together so that at the time an event happens or a thing happens or a date comes, you're in a position to use everything. And you realize at that moment, and not before it, but at that moment when it happens, you realize how all of the training, all of the preparation, all of the thinking, all of the planning comes together at that little moment. It's at that moment that you realize that everything you did had a purpose and a point and a place in your life. And everything lines up, and you're now in a position to benefit by it. When that fucking volcano blows, when shit hits the fan, everything I have talked about, everything you have talked about, everything you have thought about, everything other channels have talked about, all that information is going to coalesce. It's going to come together. It's going to, all of a sudden the puzzle pieces are going to make sense. And this price you've paid, no matter how down you are, or maybe you're at a point where you're energetically happy because you're fucking ecstatic. You've seen all this coming, and it hasn't beat you down. There's lots of different ways personalities work. But all of this stuff is going to make sense when it happens. You know, Hannibal from the A-Team, right? I love it when a plan comes together. That sort of thing. Unfortunately, the one drawback or side to this is it will be shit it's the fan. And everything that you've worked on is going to start making sense. At the same time, it's going to be the most catastrophic and ugly situation we're probably all likely to ever face. So, having all of your shit together, food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, all of that, all of those things you've got to have together to the best you can. But it'll all make sense. Right now, Hawaii was just a perfect example of how this is playing out on a international, worldwide scale. We're coming to a crossroads, in my opinion. And it's a crossroads of negativity or negative consequences. What happens? It could be the end of the world as we know it. It could be the end of our nations as we know it. You know, or it could be the end of this, shall we call it, socio-economic, political world as we know it. Meaning, things won't change too much. Shit, it's the fan light. But a lot of stuff is going to be called to the carpet, and whatever is garbage is going to be grabbed and thrown the fuck away. A lot of this social justice warrior bullshit. There's not going to be time or energy or money to waste on stupidity when shit hits the fan. Even on a shit hits the fan light, there's not going to be room for people to wear dog ears to work or tattoos all over their face. There's just not going to be time for that kind of shit. But that's later and after. We've got to get to the shit it's the fan and through it. So I've got a lot of information today warning that there's some bad shit happening. And to never, ever be off guard. And to don't get caught up in a belief system that could leave you exposed. And that even though, right, and this is the big, what I would call upshot of this. Even though we're worn down, we're tired, right, we're exhausted from this. It's like being told you have to do a 10-mile hump and they're adding another 5 miles on it. We're just fucking tired. Don't lose heart. Don't give up, because everything you have done up to this point is going to fuel you through this and help you see it through. And you're going to need that kind of thinking, that kind of fucking pep talk when it happens. Is it going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think so. I sure hope not, but I don't know. I've got lots of people pointing. Lots of people, whether it's military or political, whether we're talking about economics and finance, whether we're talking about people watching the social degradation, the social decadence. They're saying this summer, next fall, it's looking like the shit is going to hit the fan. So please, folks, I appreciate your patronage in a very little Patreon.com kind of way. I appreciate everything you guys have done for us, and I hope that everything that we've done for you as a community, not me, not just Jolene, not just the core people you see all the time on the channel, but everybody that's been involved. I want to thank everybody, and very grateful for it. I think I'm better prepared than ever. But boy, what a weird world we've got. It's looking funky, and I think that this is the year that we're going to see some serious stuff come unhinged. And never forget that everything you've learned and done is there to support you. And you can look down and you can thank yourself, right? Because you're the person standing in your shoes. You're the person that's woken up, seen what's happened, weathered it all, and got ready for it. Chance favors the prepared mind, does it not? Is yours. Semper Fi to everybody. And those of you stopping through my town, I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.